Technology is great when it works, right?
And we are live.
And we're live. Hey.
Speaking of technology,
right? All right. This week, Palpatine loses control. And once again, the Jedi are too blind to see anything. So who's really running the war? It's the Clone Wars episodes 1 through 4 this week on your Star Wars safe space. Stick around. Hey there, Star Warriors. Welcome to Star Wars Safe Space, your non-toxic, low-sodium Star Wars show that doesn't make you feel bad for not knowing that the concept of inhibitor chips was originally developed for an unproduced Episode 3 scene and later repurposed for the Clone Wars to explain the clones' obedience during Order 66. So whether you're a hardcore fan or just a little swarzy curious, this is your Star Wars Safe Space. And we are the Circle of Nerds, and we do absolutely positively love Star Wars, even when we don't always like it. So let's go around the room and meet the crew, shall we? From parts unknown, hailing, rocking the Fives tattoo, it is T to the Oni, showing respect.
Welcome back to the galaxy, everybody. It's this is a rough one, but it's a great watch either way. So
agreed.
Let's get it going.
And captain of the infamous Parma Flyer, it is Crash.
Hey, everybody. S1 is locked, ready to go. Let's do this.
Oh, we're in for such a ride tonight. All right, so what are we doing here? Well, our mission is to watch all of the canon Star Wars films and TV shows in chronological order, breaking them down, connecting the dots, and learning a little more about ourselves and maybe some more about Star Wars as well. So a word of warning to all you would-be warriors, there will be spoilers this week. And what a week it was. Yikes. That's all I've got is just yikes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. That's it. That's all we got. Do hang on because we're gonna be reaching into the Wayback Machine because a couple seasons ago we were talking with our very own Daddy Louie about Fives. And something that he had said about Five. So we're going to go ahead and hearken back to that and see how his hopes and dreams have turned out since then. But as we already know, not so well, unfortunately.
Get the tissues ready.
Get the tissues ready. So Crash and I have seen this already. Tony, this was your first time, yes?
Yes, indeed.
So I absolutely want to get your thoughts and opinions, please.
I mean, we talked about this in our preview episode for this season. You know what I wanted to see from the season, and as I've said every time, the show is called The Clone Wars. I want to see stuff about the clones,
right?
And these episodes delivered it to me. But God damn, why did I have to rip my heart out at the same fucking time? Like,
so where did you break? I mean, like, at what point did you really like feel the feels?
I mean, it depends on what feeling we're talking about. I mean, the short term is the I don't even know. There's a point in one of the episodes where Shakti is like, I don't care what Palpatine said. We're going to take this over to the Jedi Temple and research it there. And I'm like, okay, finally somebody's actually doing something that makes sense given the circumstances. Mm-hmm. And then they ignore it and just move on without it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the heartbreaker is when Fives traps Rex and Anakin in that little cone thing. And he's trying to talk to them, and he realizes that they don't believe him. I mean, it's heartbreaking because he knows that there's no way out. He knows what's gonna happen, and it's just unfortunate that like he knew the right people to go to for help, but they're not ready to hear him, and. It's not that they're not sympathetic because they are, but they're so skeptical that they don't realize what's right in front of them, and it's just it breaks you. It really does. And then of course you get the very end where Yoda and Mace are sitting there on the couch, and oh well, I guess it's all over, nothing to worry about. What the fuck, assholes? Like, do your job.
Yeah, they kind of look at each other like, this doesn't seem right, but okay. It's okay.
Like, I saw a clip. I saw a thing the other day on Instagram. I think I posted it to our Facebook account. And it's basically Obi-Wan talking to Mason Yoda and basically saying, hey, like this goes back to episode 2, and it's the hey, I found this clone army that's being developed apparently under the orders of Cypher Diaz. The person who the clones are built on is a known supporter of the Separatists. He's basically Dooku's bodyguard.
Yeah.
I just nobody think that's a problem. Like, really? You guys didn't figure this out? Like, there was never any suspicion, just, oh, okay, we've got this built-in army. Look at that. Just happens to work out for us. And, none of you thought any deeper about it on any level. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, but honestly, like, you deserve what they got.
I mean, Mace literally chopped off the donor's head. Literally. Yeah. Like, but everybody was, like you said, everybody was cool with the fact that the donor sperm for this is also Dooku's right hand. In appearance, anyway. I mean, we know that Jango was just a mercenary, but he was hired to be, Dooku's boy. So, yeah. And no one stopped to think that there could be something nefarious with the clones. Again, Jedi arrogance, or equal portions of arrogance and ignorance. But I mean, really, all of this was, Palpatine is the ultimate mastermind here, of course. And I think that there was no way out. I mean, there was no way for the Jedi to do anything other than they did, because Palpatine, except for Tup, Palpatine had everything just perfectly, meticulously planned out, and there was no other course that the Jedi could have taken, because he's playing them so well. He knows they're arrogant and he knows they're ignorant, and he's using both of those things against them. That's
true. Absolutely. And like, yeah. I've heard people make the argument about, what we call in my business, warm body syndrome, where it's the Jedi know they are not, they're not supposed to be soldiers. They're supposed to be keepers of the peace, and there's not nearly enough of them to fight a war. So all of a sudden you've got this whole separatist army you got to go against. Hey, here's an army. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to be thankful that they're there because it makes our lives easier.
Right.
I understand that argument, but come on, guys.
I mean, there were so many red flags all the time. There were so many red flags, and and also when you stop to think about it, it was even more brilliant on Palpatine's part, because now he's able to freely work on his own cloning experiments, because you've got this whole cloning planet. And so, Palpatine moving around between the planet or whatever, he's got access to the cloning technology. So he has his own cloning agenda underneath all of this. But I mean, it's just all brilliantly plotted out by this guy who is just a maniacal asshole. So I feel bad, because I really don't think that the Jedi, they didn't have a chance. I mean, they had zero chance, and the only monkey wrench was Tup, and then Fives, and then they wrapped that all up pretty nicely. Unfortunately, So Crash.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know, how many times have you seen this arc?
A couple.
So for you, if you're able to remember, like going back to when you first watched this, like emotionally, like by the time we get to season 6, I mean, when 6 was, you know, released in the wild, before the days where we could binge things, we had to wait for it like a year, almost a year to the day. We've had this huge gap. Do you feel that you were any less emotionally invested in the characters, or do you feel like you were more emotionally invested because now you've had this year to just like simmer and marinate in all of this cloney goodness?
It was for me. It was obviously like jump right back in, excited, like to the point about, you know, when was this the heartbreaking moment for me? For me, it was when he gets to Camino and Nala and Shakti are having the back and forth, and you could tell Shakti took his side all the way back with Domino Squad. And you know, it was just that idea that, you know, she saw the clones as more than just disposable, grow in a lab soldiers, and you know, to the point where they were going to do an autopsy on top. They wanted to, you know, dissect what was this virus. Yeah, the story kept shifting. At first, they thought it was like a germ warfare thing from the Separatists. Then they weren't sure. Then when he discovers the chip, the chip's defective. There was always an easy out, and you could just see them reshuffling the cards to the story on him as they were moving along, all the way to the point where they look, you know, you put him in a room with Palpatine, where he probably just literally did the mustache twirl and said, "I'm behind the whole thing,"
right
to his face, because no one's going to believe him.
No,
they got him so paranoid about everything that by the time he contacts Anakin and Rex, like you said, they want to believe him, but he's been acting in such a paranoid way that they don't know.
And he's drugged.
And he's been drugged.
He's drugged up.
You don't know what's real and what's a hallucination.
Right.
But the one that really got me was at the very end when they killed him.
Yeah.
I've always had this sort of headcanon that I always thought the Red Guard clones, the Coruscant clones, were sort of in on the take. I figure that Palpatine picked that unit as sort of like, that's his like private army, as it were, you know. So I always, because they always seem to be there to do the dirty work for him. So
but they're just following orders.
Right. Good clones follow orders.
Yeah.
And it was just that when he started talking about the mission and the nightmares, and you realize, oh my God, all these clones feel that
because they started taking their buckets off.
Everybody, even
all of
their
them.
buckets, you can see that like he has them too.
Yeah.
He has nightmares too,
Yeah.
which just, you know, I am a fan of Clone Wars because I like the clones when they are loyal and supportive, and you know, they team up with the Jedi. I think the clones and the Jedi made a great pair.
Yeah.
There are guys in this fandom who like the clones for the Order 66 betrayal. They think it's cool. Oh, I hate Jedi, so clones killing Jedi is cool. I'm like, but that's the heartbreaking part. That's the part where even for the clones, they've been, you know, I've just never served in the army, but I would just think if you went to war with somebody, the last thing you would think is, oh, I'm going to turn on you on that chip in my head's going to go kill this guy. I don't think that way. I'm a very loyalty-based person. So for me, the idea that the clones have this perpetual nightmare about betraying their generals, their friends, even, you know, you imagine Rex trying to kill Anakin.
Just having that great just in the back of your mind constantly over and over and over. That's like this constant nightmare. I mean, what does that do to them? And they're just manipulated from start to finish. I mean, we see them
literally from birth.
Literally from birth, and we see them developing individualism. They've got their own personalities. They've got their own likes and dislikes. We see them, you know, we know that they're into different sports and different games, and they like to drink and party and have a good time. They're people, you know, and five says so much.
I like, there's a line in there that where Nala they were talking, you know, the Comedians were gaslighting Fives from the minute he arrived.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But I like how when they ask why he's so, you know, he's struggling so much, you know, the Jedi, you know, inspire creativity in their clones. and that just shows, the difference between the Empire and what the Jedi were. Whereas, the Jedi inspired these clones, these test tube baby soldiers that everybody just thought, oh, hey, a convenient army shows up when we need it. The Jedi respected them as people.
Some
more than others.
Some more than others. They gave them that leeway, but then there were others that treated them, and I'm not talking about Krell. I mean, he's the extreme. He's the far end. But I'm talking about, we have seen just regular Jedi who treat clones no differently than they would treat a droid.
Not as bad as we're going to see in Bad Batch. Like, if there's a guy that talks about using clones as, like, I hate using spare parts.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far into that, but
right.
Just the idea, Five's individuality came from being around Jedi,
right, and having that latitude to grow, and become, but then he gets it from his brothers too.
Yeah,
I mean, his brothers are helping him, to grow in different ways. They have different haircuts, they have their tattoos, they really want to express themselves and show that despite the fact that they're clones, they're still individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the most important things about this show is, like, it's because we talk about, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and, how certain people want to get rid of those things. But we talk about, what's the opposite of diversity, and it's conformity. Everything's the same. Everything's just, homogenous, nothing, but strength and life thrives through diversity. And so now you've got these clones that as much as they were, I mean, identical down to the cellular level, they're individuals, personalities, likes, dislikes, motivations. And it's like, the more you think about it, the more beautiful it gets. Man, I love Star Wars fans.
And it's what made them better than the droids. For every time.
Exactly.
This episode was great because how many times have we saw the new in the first episode when they were I was calling it the Halo map scene where they were trying to assault the different hallways and stuff.
Yeah.
Now we got super battle droids with jetpack. They fly now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see a new upgrade in the droids' capabilities, it doesn't matter because the clones can think creatively enough to count. We started seeing clones carrying riot shields to deflect blaster fire.
Right. I mean, how cool is that? And
the commando droids have been doing that since season 1. They had those energy shields.
Mm-hmm. And we like this in this arc too. We get to see them. I really liked their space packs they were wearing, the small backpacks with the hose that went into those the aerator ports. Love seeing that. I thought that was very, very cool.
And can we all have a collective chuckle about the Dave Filoni worked in a dick joke?
I missed it.
Oh, you missed it.
Joke. How did I'm the king of dicks?
I know.
That didn't sound right.
You said it.
When Anakin and the guys do the spacewalk over to the separatist ship and they're looking into the hangar.
Yeah.
Anakin pulls out that teeny tiny little Jedi binocular thing that we've seen in the movies.
Oh,
and Five's are those standard issue? And Anakin's like, just keep your mind on the job. I was like,
okay.
They worked in a size joke.
Okay, I missed it, but yeah, I remember the scene.
Nice.
I missed it.
I remember when I first saw this show, and every time I was howling because I'm like, oh my god, they worked in a size joke. Yeah, in a cartoon, you gotta love it.
I will say one thing that I did not miss. You mentioned earlier about differences between the clones. In particular, you mentioned haircuts and tattoos. I got to give a shout out to my boy Kix.
Yeah,
with a phenomenal tattoo that I debated about trying to do on the other side, but it's just way too much. And
that's gonna take a lot. That's gonna take a lot. Yeah, I think in his tattoo it says the only good droid is a dead droid or something like that. I Holocron Keeper.
A good droid is a dead one.
Dead droid. Okay, yeah. That's a hell of a tattoo. And I love how he literally says
a good droid is a dead one.
A dead one. Okay. I know it's something along those lines. But I love how he was like, he's primping himself a little bit. He's like in the mirror, like, hey, Kix is looking good. I like seeing Jesse there. It's cool seeing the clones again in a human environment, in in this thing. So we have a couple viewers right now, and I'm curious to know what they think about these episodes if they've seen them. Because this one, especially if you're invested in the characters, and Fives, it's hard not to be invested in Fives. And with that being said, we're gonna have to pull up the clip from Daddy Louie from a little while ago. And for those of you that watch the show, and that I know it's everyone that watches it or listens.
Previously on Star Wars.
Previously. So in this episode, we were talking about it was the Umbara arc, which was brutal in itself. But we were talking. Louis was talking about the characters with plot armor, so he's not too keen on that because. I get it. There's no mystery. You know that this person's going to make it to the end. Doesn't matter what kind of situation you put them in. They're going to make it to the end. So there's no worries there. But he had this to say about Fives, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
As you can tell, it's very fascinating if we can hear it.
Yes.
All right, and that was that. And so unfortunately his hopes and dreams were shattered. Dave did not listen. Dave did not hear your pleas. And if he did, he gave zero fucks about them. But I mean, this has been done for so long. I wish Louis was here. I wish he would have watched this with us this week, because that would have been the best insight, because he loves Fives, and then Fives is no more.
And he's not alone. I remember I've been to past, this aired a couple of years ago, and there's been some celebrations since. And I used to walk around and you take pictures of interesting stuff. And I always love it when I run into somebody who would do like actual Fives ARC Trooper armor.
Yeah.
And I remember I'll have to find the picture and post it on our social feeds. But it was hilarious. There was this one guy I met that he had a full Fives kit, and then like a little brother or somebody with him in a kid's version of Five, with on the sign on the back says "Five deserve better." I mean, people really get attached to these clones.
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, we've known Five since he was a rookie.
Right.
I mean, if you watch the show as it came out, potentially you grew up with Fives. I mean, we didn't get him every episode, but we got him enough. We got to see him go from a rookie to a fucking ARC Trooper, which is pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, and when he showed up on Camino with that new armor, it was like, that was my boy. Everybody loved seeing him advance through the ranks like that.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw that. Did you guys not hear the clip?
No, we didn't hear it.
What?
Yeah, we played, but we didn't hear it.
Oh, well, that means that maybe our viewers didn't get it either. Hold on, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me see. Let me go back.
He's looking at
our viewers didn't hear it. Let us know. But
we'll play it one more time if we can. But hey, Tony, while he's looking at that, what episode?
Can you hear it?
Hold on. Oh.
Do you hear anything?
Not yet. We don't hear anything yet.
I mean, right now,
really?
I hear us. I don't hear anything different.
Oh, I wonder why. I have everything turned up too. Nothing?
No. Anyway, it was a great clip. If you go back through our YouTube archives and look up the Umbara episode, Louis had a great moment where he just, Oh, there you go. You can hear it a little bit.
Can you hear it or no?
Barely.
I can hear just. I recognize his voice, but it's so faint in the background.
Oh man. Well, that's weird. I wonder why it's doing that. Well, I don't know. Again, our old pal technical difficulties. That's pretty usual.
But if you go through our YouTube,
I'd say we could edit and post, but we are live.
Yeah. that was a great moment.
Maybe we can clip it
totally
and send it out.
Yeah, totally spontaneous, and it was like one of those things where you could see he was getting attached to a new character that we'd seen growing from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I was biting my lip trying not to laugh. I'm like, oh, he's so going to get fucked over.
Yeah.
It's going to break your heart, Louie.
Yeah. And then speaking of rookies, did you guys notice the two of the trainers, the brain-headed guy who was the real asshole? I can't remember his name. Him and then the bug-looking insect guy. They were walking down the hallway with another group of rookies as Fives and AZ were in the hallway as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice. That was...
Yeah. Well, at this point in the show, Dave was, they had created so many character models for certain things that, especially on Coruscant, you see a lot of Ahsoka species and a lot of people with Mandalorian haircuts and stuff. There was a lot of recycled character models by then, and those guys especially. But it's also, they probably still had a job on Camino, and they'd be wandering the halls. I also like that, this was the first time I think we saw the gray shoulder pauldrons for the Camino like they had their own detachment assigned. Yeah,
they looked pretty cool. And I also liked the guys at the beginning with the sisters. I believe the one, his name is Commander Doom.
Yeah.
And I think their armor was based off of Dr. Doom, which I always thought was pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
Because Dave is a freaking nerd, and we absolutely love him for it.
I had that in my notes.
Oh, okay. Very cool. But yeah, those gray, the gray
gray and green
Kamino, the gray Kaminoan troopers, I don't remember them. They really look cool. They have a good look. I like that. I wish I would have known that, but because maybe I would have built one of those instead of Rex, but probably not. But like the ARC troopers, like Crash, what you were talking about. Oh yeah, there we go. Right there.
Yes,
he is. Dave is one of us. Dave is 100% one of us. Absolutely. When people wear it's so cool because when they're wearing the ARC Trooper gear, those add-ons are ridiculous because you've got the trauma plate, you've got like basically it's like Rex's armor, but then you've got the trauma plates and then you've got some extra gear on top of it plus the backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just hats off to the guys that do ARC Trooper costuming because that's you're taking an already heavy, uncomfortable hunk of plastic that doesn't breathe and you're adding more to it. So ARC Trooper costumers, we love you. We appreciate you. All right. So question time, since we've already watched this. My breaking point for this was Rex when he's holding Fives in his arms and he says, "Don't go." I was like, are you kidding us? Like, that's not even the appropriate sound effect. I was done. Because anytime Rex is the most sad thing in Star Wars. I will fight you in the streets if you can find something that is sadder than Sad Rex.
No, you're absolutely right. We talked about this last week about characters who have suffered the most throughout the story.
Yeah,
and you mentioned specifically Rex and Qui-Gon,
Obi-Wan,
and I'm sorry, you're right, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was up probably like 3 or 4 hours. Like I mentioned, after that, I went to work and was working. And the entire time I'm at work, I'm sitting there thinking about, like, you know what? He is absolutely right. Those two, God damn. This is just another example. Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, these poor men. Like, God damn.
Poor Ben. Poor Ben Kenobi. The most tragic figure in the entire Star Wars canon, bar none. But even sad Obi-Wan is not as sad as Sad Rex.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Like when Obi-Wan, when he lost the team, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching moment, 100%. But Rex on Umbara, Rex holding holding a dying Fives in his arm and pleading with him, don't go. Stay with me.
Yeah.
Don't leave.
And honestly, for anybody who would argue that Obi-Wan had it worse, I will just remind you that Obi-Wan got to grow up as a kid. Like, yes, ultimately, he became part of the Jedi Order. We know they take them young, and we know they indoctrinate them young. But Rex has had it from birth. Rex has never known a life outside of this.
And all those men are his brothers.
By the way, I'll take a glimpse back to I can't even remember which season it was now, but when he was injured and matter of fact, Kix was there and gave him the back to healing, but said he had to stay there.
Cut LaQuain.
Yeah,
back LaQuain.
Like he got that one episode, that one glimpse of what life would be like outside of war. And as you guys know, I have only seen what we have watched when it comes to Clone Wars stuff. I have not seen any Rebels yet, so my knowledge of Rex is only up to the point that we're at right now.
I love it.
But up to this point, that is the only time he has had any indication of what life outside of war looks like.
Yeah, you're right.
And everything else that he has seen has been this war and has been this tragedy and has been the death of his friends and his comrades and his brothers.
He's known nothing but loss his entire life.
God damn, man. Fuck.
We've got Grainy watching us on YouTube said, anyone who isn't moved by Five's death scene, I do not trust.
Exactly.
100%. 100%. Yeah, Rex has seen so much and has been privy to so much. You know what? And Tony, I'll just tell you this. You are in for so much more emotional Rex. Like I don't even, I'm sure you've seen spoilers. I'm sure you've seen Old Man Rex and
I've seen little clips here and there from Rebels and whatnot.
Yeah. So you know that he does have the plot armor. You know he's going to make it through and get to Rebels. So you already know that. And we've talked about him, being on Endor during Jedi. So we know that he makes it. He makes it. But what you haven't seen yet is the absolutely positively soul-crushing situations that our boy Rex finds himself in, especially in Rebels. What the fuck? And I hated Rebels when it came out. I hated it. I didn't like the animation style. I thought it was really goofy. No, I didn't care for it. And then I got to season 2. And then I watched season 3. And then, we continue on. Season 1 of Rebels for me is like, okay, we're world building. We're character building. Okay, fine. I get it. But then as shit really starts popping off in Rebels, it's I don't want to say it's better than the Clone Wars. I'm not going to say that Rebels is better than the Clone Wars. It's different, but the level of emotion in Rebels far exceeds the Clone Wars.
I mean, that makes sense because from what I understand, Rebels is very much based upon a small group of people.
Yeah.
And their storyline. Whereas, don't get me wrong, I love Clone Wars up to the point that we watched so far, and I'm sure I will continue to love it. But we're dealing with an entire war. We've got episodes that are Anakin focused. We've got episodes that are Obi-Wan focused. We've got episodes that are Ahsoka focused. We're dealing with different groups of clone troopers and different squads.
We're all over the place.
And you mentioned, obviously, we know Rex has plot armor up to this point. But that almost makes it worse because that means, somebody who's seen what I have seen, I know he lives through Order 66.
Right.
And on top of all the torture and everything else, we mentioned it earlier about, the dreams and the nightmares that these guys go through. He had to experience it not as a dream. And he's still around.
Right.
Like knowing everything that happens between now and where I know he at least survives until, I know how many more deaths there are, how many more of his brothers will fall.
Yeah. How many
so
more?
the fact that he has plot armor just means he's got that much more emotional torture to go through. I mean,
right?
Ugh.
Tony, I am exceedingly happy that you're able to experience this with brand new eyes. I'm actually jealous that you're able to go through this with these fresh eyes, because again, Crash and I have seen this, a few times, but it doesn't take away from the emotional weight of it. But for you seeing it for the first time and having now watched things in order, you know what goes on. I mean, you're privy to certain things, but you're not necessarily aware of how characters get there. We know how they end up, but we don't know how they get there. So, and then as you start tying these things in with, live action things like Andor and, some of the new shows that are going to be coming out, then it just all comes together in this beautiful nerdy stew.
Yeah, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here. I mean, you mentioned Andor, and I mentioned last episode that I had not seen the final 3 episodes yet. I have since. And I have a lot of thoughts, but that would take an entire other episode, so I'm not even gonna get into it right now. Jesus Christ!
All right, so then maybe we need to. I don't know. I mean,
maybe we should do an Andor just review, and we've all seen it. Just do a quick not tonight, but maybe throw one in there.
We can. So Granny said Rebels is one family unit. Clone Wars is a literal army of people that we are trying to care about. So we only care about a small amount of them unless they make a big impact. And that's true. That's a great point.
Absolutely true.
That's a great point.
Fair.
You can't care about thousands and thousands of countless nameless clones unless they die in horrific ways. And then you're like, ooh, brother.
And then they end up on our wall.
So
which by the way, if Tup and Fives are not on the wall, we got problems.
Oh, Tup and Fives, of course, are there in places of honor on the wall.
Right.
I think that goes without saying. I think that absolutely goes without saying.
I agree. It's just we hadn't officially mentioned the wall yet this episode, so
we haven't. We haven't
bring it up.
We actually haven't talked about the wall for a while. There were so few clones dying at one point that I think we maybe just kind of forgot about it.
Well, there was a whole stretch where we weren't like Tony was saying. The show is called Clone Wars. He wants to see clones. There was a stretch where we weren't really focusing on the clone battalions. You get an Obi-Wan story or an Anakin story, but they're not with their army at the time, or they're off doing something else. You might see. Clone Wars is great because Dave and Dave Bradley have created so many one-off characters. My favorite is still from the Zillow Beast arc with Hawkeye and Trapper. Like that's a quick Easter egg, name drop.
Match. Yeah, I love it.
It has nothing. It had nothing to do with a hospital. It had nothing to do. But as soon as you say Hawkeye and Trapper, the little thing like, okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm. I love how, the number of names that the writers had to come up with for individual clones was just phenomenal. It blew me away sometimes. Like the creativity in the naming alone. We talk about the clones' creativity, the writers' creativity in making such distinct differences between every time we get introduced to a new batch of clones somewhere.
And there's a whole list. Like if you type in list of named clones, it's extensive, surprisingly extensive. I mean, we know we can name a handful off the tops of our heads, but this is different. I mean, they really go in. They go in. So
anytime we get into this, I always have to say absolute shout out to D. Bradley Baker, because I have heard so many voice actors talk about how hard it is to do multiple characters in the same show where they're having a conversation with one another, and to be able to go back and forth and have those little differences between them to keep them straight. And I can't think of, and I mean, granted, I am far from an expert, but I can't think of any voice actor who has voiced that many characters in the same show at the same time. I know there are some people on The Simpsons, there are some people on Family Guy who do multiple characters, but the sheer volume of characters that D. Bradley Baker has to maintain all at the same time and make work. All the respect in the world to that man. God damn, he needs more work. Fuck.
Well, I mean, like you're talking about that. My first thought is Mel Blanc. Of course, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, every character, and watching him on interviews, having a conversation between all these characters. But like what you said, like with Mel Blanc, all these characters sound distinctly different.
Yes.
Baker is taking characters that sound the same and giving them individual personality through these just little inflections and these nuances. That's hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hardcore. So he's like, if you were, I mean, I'm wondering if like, I don't think that I'm a super fan enough to be able to do this, but I'm sure that there are people out there who, if you were to just have them listen to voice samples of the individual clones, they would be able to pick out which clone that is. Even though it's Bradley Baker doing the exact same voice for each clone, I bet you there's people out there that would be able to recognize the difference between Fives and Rex and Tup and Jesse, you know, and all these other clones. Obviously 99, you know, his voice is a little more distinct. And do you guys remember, it was earlier on, I thought, was it in Rookies? I think it might have been in Rookies. There were like 3 or 4 clones that had really, really different accents. Like there was like an Irish accent, there was like a British accent. They were, I don't know if they were like just playing around with the idea of doing like different accents like that, but it was kind of weird. I don't think they ever went back to that.
It might have been something they experimented with, you know, when they said, okay, we're going to create a wide range of what, and they probably found out that, you know, Irish accent for a Tamora Morrison character didn't quite fit. So they probably, okay, just give it a little inflection here, a little tweak there. Yeah, that's part of the learning process of season 1. A lot of the criticism of the first season was that things were kind of clunky and there was a process to it. And by the time you get to season 6, I mean, it's just a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and then season 7, we're almost done, guys. We're almost done with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little sad about it, but I mean, we've got lots of stuff coming up.
Did you guys catch there was another reference in the first episode in that battle scene, the welding the doors and leaving auto turrets behind? Did anyone catch that?
No, what's that from?
Aliens. You know, the Galactic Marines and the Xenomorphs and the I as soon as I was like, oh, they're leaving the E-Web on auto fire. Oh, that's like an Aliens. Dave, you sneaky bastard. You know, I think they even had like a sensor, you know, like a sonar, like that boop, boop, boop. You know, they're tracking. It was a total Aliens play.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I totally missed that. You know, and it's interesting too. Like you've got clones chasing clones. You've got clones shooting at clones, and you know, I do kind of wonder like what's going on. You know, what's going through their minds, because these are their brothers. You know, they're following orders. They're doing. You know, someone told them that Fives was a bad guy. We got to capture Fives. And so they're going after him, you know, and we see Fives beat the shit out of quite a few clone troopers. You know, a couple of them he apologized to, but that's got to be hard too. You know, these aren't the enemy.
Like you mentioned before about you know, the trainers from Domino Squad popping up in the background.
Yeah.
Like part of me at the time seeing them in the background was like, oh, I want to see them confront Fives now after all the shit that they talked. Just let him rush them.
Yeah, because I mean that guy, you know, that dude just he was hard on Fives. Graney said they were so lucky that they found D. Bradley. He is absolutely amazing. He is indeed.
Yes.
But yeah, to see that that mercenary trainer, you know, again, and to show him like, look, I became an ARC trooper. I mean, this is like the best of the best. I think the only people that are a higher tier than ARC trooper may be the Bad Batch, but even them, I don't know. I mean, it's ARC troopers are the cream of the crop. They are special forces, Navy SEALs. They're really, really good at what they do. So for Fives to have achieved that and then to lose him, it's rough. That's rough. So let's talk about the Jedi for a minute. I love the clones, but we got to talk about the Jedi because everybody is always about the Jedi. And how complicit were they in Order 66? How complicit were they in their own undoing because of their lack of movement on any of this? You know, even Anakin was a little reluctant to believe Fives, you know, and we already saw the Jedi Council not really actively pursuing things, you know. So
Well, Anakin was already sort of brainwashed into thinking that the Chancellor could do no wrong. When Fives this goes all the way up to the Chancellor, I think that's where he lost Anakin.
He was offended. Anakin was offended
by that. Even the suggestion that the Chancellor would be in on something not above board, you know.
That's the problem.
And that's part of the brilliance of Papa Palpatine, is that, you know, he's already got Anakin, you know, spinning this narrative that, you know, he is above reproach.
He's in his pocket, man. He's got Anakin in his pocket.
Well, he's got the whole council in his pocket. Let's be honest.
Hey, they're suspicious. I mean, they are. I'll give them that. The council they don't like Palpatine, and they are suspicious of him, but they don't really do anything to act on it. I mean, they just
exactly, and that's the worst part. Like I can understand Anakin. Anakin is still very young. You know, he was brought in, you know, older than most Jedi are, so he hadn't been quite as brainwashed as the rest of them, if that's what the term we want to use. And of course, Palpatine took a special interest in him, so he's been manipulating him as much as he can when he can. But also, Anakin is constantly off-world, away from Coruscant, away from the Palpatine, and doing his own things. Right. The Council is there the whole time. There is no excuse why they can't see what's going on.
And then when we see Tup freaking out, like, this is clearly an anomaly. You know, up to this point, clones do not straight up sauce Jedi. It doesn't happen. And for them to just say, oh, it's an isolated incident, and, you know, let's not dig deeper. I mean, Shaak Ti did a bit, but I feel like maybe the Jedi really could have done more to investigate this. You know, I mean, you've got a clone trooper who is not super tech or bio savvy, and a droid who execute a larger investigation than the Jedi Council did. You know, and then Granny here watching us on YouTube said the Jedi Council had been stagnant for a long time, and that's true. That's true. They just the Jedi had the opportunity for a very long time to just sit in and be comfortable and just exist in their arrogance and exist in their ignorance, and that's when Palpatine struck.
I do think it's interesting that, again, Shaak Ti is a better example because she's had boots on the ground experience on. Apparently, she's been stationed on the Camino from the beginning.
Yeah.
And there was a great exchange between her and Nala Se about who owns the clones, and we can get into the idea of owning people and what, you know,
use that word. They were very careful not to use the word own or ownership. I noticed that.
Yeah.
For someone to say it, but nobody did.
And because that's been the problem from the beginning, is that, you know, allegedly Sifo Dyas, even though obviously we see the Kaminoans are in on the act, you know, they're calling Lord Tyrannus with updates while Shaak Ti's on site, and all sorts of like sneaky secrets going on back and forth. But I did find it interesting that, you know, Shaak Ti was really lobbying for the idea that, you know, the Jedi Council should be investigating this. We should examine those, you know, chips, the tumor that was taken out. Whereas Nala Se was constantly saying, you know, no, the Chancellor says he wants to take it to the medical facility on Coruscant, which ironically, that's the same room Darth Vader was built in. If you look closely.
Yeah, I like that. That was a nice nod.
A nice little nod. But this idea that, you know, who owns the there's a great line in the hockey movie Slapshot. You know, guy who owns the Chiefs. You know, this French Canadian goalie is trying to talk about who owns the hockey team. It's the same way with the clone army. Who owns the clones?
Yeah,
and there was a bit of a power struggle going on.
Yeah, Granny here said the borderline slavery is unforgivable to me, and I mean, could we see this, the clones' service or servitude, as a form of slavery? I mean, because like what?
Oh, it absolutely is. I don't think that's even a question.
Yeah, because I mean, what did AZ say? He said that you're going to get your brain wiped, and they're going to send you to sanitation to clean up. So now you're just no better than a droid. We can wipe a droid's memory and set them off to do whatever task we want, and we're going to do the same thing with the clones. So
and that was the Kaminoans' way of approaching the. If there was they call it an anomaly, but really what they're talking about is individuality.
Yeah,
and free thought, and
or they're defective.
Yeah. Again, Shakti and the Jedi look at the clones and they inspire creativity. The Kaminoans and the Republic, as we'll see later on in Bad Batch, see that individuality as a defect, as a flaw that needs to be wiped out. And that's why I know it's real easy to dump on the Jedi about, the slave army. First off, it wasn't their army. They were just given command of it by the Republic, because they could have, why not put Tarkin and the human, members in charge of the clones? This is part of Palpatine's setup, obviously. Yeah. But this idea, the Jedi didn't place an order for a clone army. This was the largest case of identity theft in galactic history.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't place the order, but they took command. I mean, they could have said, no, we're not going to command a slave army. They could have said, how many of you want to be here? I mean, Cut had to literally desert in order for him to have a free life. I mean, look at Gregor. I mean, he had amnesia, but he got a taste of individual, civilian life.
Yeah.
Very few clones. And so this brings me to my next question. With or without the inhibitor chips, right? Do we think that the clones ever really truly had any semblance of free will? I mean, at all. I mean, they had freedom of expression, clearly, because they were allowed to paint their armor, they were allowed to get tattoos, they were allowed to style their hair. So they had freedom of expression, but did they have true free will? Or would they have, even without the chips?
I'm going to say yes, but my knowledge is, but my opinion is based on things that we haven't seen up to this point yet. First off, we go into Bad Batch, and then we know about Rex's future, where there are clones that resist Order 66.
Yes,
and if you manage to be able to do that, something that was programmed into your brain to do, and you manage to resist it, I don't know what else that can be other than free will. Now,
but those are the clones
how
that got
limited it is,
right.
how many of them have the ability to fight that? That's a fair question, but at least some of them have.
And Rex had a lot of help, though. Where I don't want to spoil anything, but Rex was able to fight it. Gregor, Wolf, these guys were able to fight it. They had help, but free will was not part of the plan.
Oh, of course not.
They were very much a disposable army. They were. I think there were a couple things that went sideways for Palpatine here. One of them was Tup. One of them was his chip being mildly activated, prematurely. So that did not go the way that Papa Palpy had initially planned. But also, I don't think that he ever really planned for them to have as much liberty, let's just say, as they had, and they talked about that, and Crash, you had mentioned that too. Dooku was like, well, what's the cause of this? And the Jedi allow them to have liberties. I mean, they're allowed to go on leave, apparently. I mean, they have, they can go to the bar, they can go to the 79 and have a few drinks, and they're hanging out with some dancing girls and some pleasure droids. So I mean, they're able to kick back.
I had a slight giggle at the idea of a clone trooper bar in Coruscant that had to designate what the men's room was. Like, there are no girl clones. Obviously, there are other patrons that can, but I was like, you got to put because the sign over the bathroom for the men, the universal men's symbol. I was like, as opposed to what, a droid? It was just.
You had some little Twilight cuties in there.
Yeah, I know.
This
is a clone bar that has to be equally accessible. I thought was kind of funny, just in the sense that, like, Who else are you expecting to show up?
So Grainy here says, I headcanon that brain damage can affect how well the chip works. Yeah,
that's possible.
Yeah, some brain damage, some head trauma, maybe some PTSD could have something to do with it. Who knows? They also go on to say, my evidence is how many times Rex bangs his head in the show. Yeah, Rex gets knocked around quite a bit. So what does that do?
Fair point, Grainy.
That is a very fair point. That's a very fair point.
Speaking of, I know I'm supposed to be the keeper of the holocron here, but I've done a little bit of research, but I haven't been able to find anything yet. Is there any Easter egg or anything as to why the clone bar is named 79s?
I don't know. I was going to ask you.
Is it a reference to something? I've been looking and I can't see anything definitively.
I haven't heard it mentioned in any Dave Filoni interviews or anything like that. Like when they talk about the show, nobody's ever asked him about it directly. So,
I mean, it has to be.
So what you're saying is we have a unique question to ask him whenever we get him on here.
Exactly.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
All right.
Also, one other quick thing here. Just because, as far back as I can recall, at least through this series and through what we've seen in the live action stuff, is this the first time that it's made blatantly clear to everybody that the Kaminoans are not on the Jedi side?
This was the most overt.
Yeah.
Like when like I said, the secret. They go into the secret room and contacting Tyrannus is on hold. They're calling Dooku while Shaak Ti's on site. And then they go out and feed a bunch of bullshit to her. I mean, the Kaminoans, this was the first time that it was painfully obvious that they're still dealing with Dooku directly.
So like up until now, to me, it's always been there's a plausible deniability. Maybe they really were contacted by Cypher DS. Maybe probably they weren't, but at least they had the ability to say, well, that's who we thought we were working for.
Right.
But it still didn't seem like they knew everything.
Right. But now it's now it's pretty I don't think obviously, Shaak Ti and the Jedi Council aren't aware of what we are as the audience are, but as from what we are now aware of, I don't think we can make an argument that they are quote unquote on the right side.
No, they're not. They're on the side of who pays them. But I don't think they realize. I mean, they know what the chips are for in case Jedi go rogue, but I think that's as far as the Kaminoan knowledge goes. They're clearly not aware of Order 66, or that it's to annihilate all the Jedi. It's just in case a Jedi goes rogue, you can execute Order 66. I think maybe that's the extent of their knowledge.
Which is interesting in that, you going back to the Umbara arc, when the clones realized that Krell was a rogue agent in the Republic Army, it's almost, I'm surprised that their inhibitor chips didn't clip in and orders, the killing. They did try to kill him, obviously, but there wasn't that personality shift like you see in Revenge of the Sith, where all of a sudden all the Jedi are their enemy, or like in this episode, he sees a Jedi in front of him and he just has to shoot her. I was very surprised that we had, for all the times we've had Jedi turn on their own army, that this is the first time we've had a malfunction in the chips.
Right.
That obviously, this is the bug in the system that Dooku and Palpatine were trying to keep under wraps.
Mm-hmm. And I like that we're getting this now, because the closer we get to Order 66, the amount of content that we're going to have to consume to cover Order 66 is a little bit ridiculous. It's a little, because we're going to be, in order for us to cover Order 66, I don't know how the hell we're going to watch it, but we're going to have to watch one movie, a few episodes from 3 different TV shows, and try to watch them in an order that makes sense, because, Revenge of the Sith, of course, is when it happens, but we've got episodes of the Clone Wars. We've got episodes of Bad Batch. We've got episodes of, I think, Tales of the Empire.
Just don't make me play Jedi Fallen Order, because I'm no good at. I know there's some cutscenes that involve.
There are. I had to when we were developing this show, we had to like kind of draw that line. Like, what's the distinction? Because we could go into comics, we could go into the novels, we could go into the video games, and you know, because a lot of that stuff is canon. But it's like I can't consume the comics or like now. However, I just finished watching the Tales of the Underworld series. Have you guys seen that? We're not going to talk about it until it comes up. But there was an episode in there. Tony, have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay, I don't want to say anything.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But there was a scene in there was an episode in the opening scene. I was like, wait, what? What? What's happening? So I had to look it up, and basically the explanation for that takes place in a novel. So it's like, do I just read the wiki, or do I not be an ignorant, lazy bastard, and do I actually purchase the novel and read it for the enjoyment of it? And
that book just jumped like 5 spots in my to read list. As soon as I saw that clip, I was like, oh, you gotta be, because I knew it was from.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, we're going there.
Like I had known that the two of them had a relationship, but I didn't know, because I haven't read that book. Like I said, I haven't read anything since since Aftermath. So, and Aftermath came out quite some time ago. So I haven't read anything that's been, but I don't know when that, what was it, Dark Apprentice, I think the name of the book is.
I know that's a book. I don't know if that's the book, but
I think Dark Apprentice is the book that deals with the events that lead up to this episode, because it's a big retcon, because people are like, how the hell did Ventress come back? You know, because we see Ventress in like these other episodes.
When the timeline got reset, there were a couple books that had just come out that were kind of like, well, does this make the cut? Same Ahsoka, a novel, was another one where they sort of reworked the story when Dave did Tales of the Jedi and Ahsoka's arc. Like, it's the basic elements are still there. They just changed maybe the location and the name of the Inquisitor. Or so, yeah. If you hum a few bars, I can play along. Basically,
So, and that's another thing. We've got some really good Ahsoka coming up. So there's just a lot of really good Star Wars in store for us as we get closer to Order 66, and it's just gonna be a crazy, wacky time. And I have not really sussed out how the hell to watch all this stuff. Because like, I don't want to, because really the way that we should do it is that we should watch Revenge of the Sith up to a certain point, pause it, and then go watch this particular episode of this episode. When that ends, then we pick up.
Come back, watch the next scene of the movie, then go back.
You can't even get the sound on a clip of Louis from the show to work. We're not, folks. We don't have to worry about doing a Star Wars Safe Space machete cut. We'll figure it out. We're just like, okay, just watch them all, come back, and then watch the movie. Yeah.
Just watch the thing, and then
clones start shooting the wrong guys. You know where we're at.
Right. Here, let me know if you can hear this.
Very low, but yeah.
Yeah, I barely.
Damn it! All right, anyway, I'll figure it out, or I won't, and we just won't do it again. Okay. So that's it. We're about to wrap things up here, but before we do, Feist, next week homework. We're going to be continuing on with season 6 here. You're going to be watching episodes 5, 6, and 7. Only 3 episodes. This is going to be the Clovis arc that you will be watching. So it's not filler. It's going to feel like filler, but it's not filler.
Well, like I always say with Filoni, filler is prologue. It's going to lead to other things. Exactly.
That is correct. So, and of course, we've also got to do our obligatory pimping. Let me get to the right button so I can do that right there. circleofnerds.com/merch for all of your Circle of Nerds and Star Wars Safe Space apparel needs. If you want it, we've got it. If we don't got it, you don't need it. So there you go. Hoodies, t-shirts, things for your dogs, all the things. So head on over to our website, circleofnerds.com/merch, and you will find all that goodness. And of course, please do check us out on social media at the SWS Show on all platforms. Crash and Tony are doing a great job handling the Facebook side of the house. Crash got into it a little bit, I noticed, with some salty fandom menacers. I saw that pop up in my
yeah,
feed.
that was fun.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
and real quick, I do want to say hi to the people I met last weekend at Motor City Con. We were talking about the show. I posted some pictures of them. I know some of you joined the page and been checking us out. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, if you give us a little shout out if you see a Sith Lord, the one cosplayer, you know who I'm talking about. Nice to meet you guys.
So we need to get out more. We need to get out more, like as a crew, and just like go do some things. You know, we need to go. We need to get back to some cons. We used to do cons a lot. I don't know. We don't do it anymore. We need to do it. We need to go on the road. We'll figure it out. All right. So that is going to do it for us. You guys have anything on the way out?
That's about it.
No.
All right.
RIP to Tup and Fives.
RIP.
Everybody send Louis an emotional support animal after this. He's going to need it.
Yes.
Oh, poor Louis. He'll be all right though.
It sounded really cool though. If you find the clip, it was really good.
I wish that everyone could have heard the clip, but apparently that is not the case. So I apologize. I'll figure it out. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. I don't know. I'll ask ChatGPT or somebody. I don't know. Or Google.
Okay.
All right. So if no one's got anything else, we're going to head on out. As always, a very special thanks to all of our active duty service members and veterans for their service and sacrifice. Memorial Day is Monday, May 26th. I would like to think that this episode will be out on Tuesday, May 27th, the way that it's supposed to be. But if you're enjoying this live, Memorial Day is coming up. It is not just a day off for barbecue. It is a day of remembrance. So, we talk about our wall of remembrance here with the clones. Let's show reverence to the people that have come before us and sacrificed and made the ultimate sacrifice in real life, much like the clone troopers do in our fun fantasy world that we enjoy so much. So, every Memorial Day at 3 p.m. Local time, wherever you happen to be at 3 p.m., just please stop. Moment of silence. Whether a military member or have a veteran in your life, if you go back far enough in your family tree, I bet you got somebody attached to the military. The farther back you go, but just 3 o'clock on a Memorial Day, just stop for a minute. 60 seconds, 30 seconds. Just to honor the people that have fallen. You don't have to agree with the governments. None of us do. You don't have to agree with why these people were sent where they were sent. But they heard the call and they answered, and some of them didn't come back. So just something to think about. And then go back to the beers and the brats and enjoy the rest of your day off. But just keep that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. I mean, it's not just, we talk about, the how difficult it is watching some of these scenes, and again, RP to Fives and to Tup and all the other clones over the seasons. These are just characters.
Yeah.
Memorial Day is all about those people who did the same thing but in real life. So
yeah, that's the thing. I think we don't think about. I mean, some people do. I mean, if you've had that kind of experience in real life and you're watching episodes of the Clone Wars, and Rebels handles PTSD really, really well. I was very, very happy with the way that Dave handled PTSD in that. And we'll definitely talk about it when that episode hits. But the things that the clones are going through, actual human beings have gone through the same things and worse. So maybe not Commander Krell. Maybe not Krell type levels, but pretty bad. So, all right. So that's a great way to end the episode on such a somber note. But again, Memorial Day is a somber day of remembrance. So let's not forget, because I know there's a saying out there that says you die twice. Once when your physical body dies, and once when no one remembers you. So try to remember, even if get out to a national cemetery. Just even if you have nobody out there, just go out there and plant a flag, lay a wreath, something. Just so you can read one of the names on those tombstones, say it out loud, and they're not forgotten. So, all right, I'm going to get myself choked up. So that's going to do it this week for us. Again, thank you so much for joining us. You could have been anywhere else doing anything else, but you chose to hang out with us, and I appreciate you for that. So that is it. And as always, remember, if no one does anything nice for you, do something nice to yourself, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye. Adios. Sayonara. Alvita Zane. Goodbye.